There was a time in my life when I was lost, desperately searching for hope, healing, and answers. Years of enduring domestic violence had left me broken, longing for peace and yearning to find God in the chaos. I was just a teenager. I met this person when I was 14, 15 years old. We got into a relationship and eventually got us into marriage. I was married when I was 17. I suffered years of domestic violence. I couldn't talk to my family back then. I couldn't say a single word to them because that was something that made me feel guilty, that I left my family to go with him. But I wanted it to continue. I wanted it to be faithful and have a better family, a better life. But I was suffering. And at that moment, I needed God to guide me, to show me a way out. I started searching more. I decided to leave him and to start a new life close to my parents. That search led me to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. From the moment I walked through those doors, I felt something different. Love, kindness, and the light of Christ shining through the people I met. The first person that opened the doors for me was a master guy who was in the sound system at the moment. And he took me and introduced me to new master guys as well, showing me patience and compassion. And I knew I was studying a new chapter. Changing my routine to honor the Sabbath was a big challenge. As a university student back then, I had classes on Saturday that seemed impossible to miss. After wrestling with my fears, I chose to trust God. And in 2002, I made my bold decision to get baptized, and my journey of faith truly began. So years after, I found love again. I got married and we decided to move to Los Angeles. I didn't recognize the red flags. I didn't recognize that I was falling into the same cycle of domestic violence. Unfortunately, is what happened. This time, I was alone, far from my family, and the government, they took over. I had to fall into the system, and actually, I didn't understand what was happening at that moment. Everything was new for me, but yet, God never left me. Step by step, He opened the doors. I got into a program that they offered to me. I went to Pasadena City College where I was able to study graphic design. So eventually I found work, but my true strength came from my church family at Lincoln Heights. My church became my rock. Serving as an adventure instructor and later as a Pathfinder director filled my heart with joy as I watched young lives grow in faith. God was working in me, preparing me for something greater. I was later called to lead as an area coordinator for the youth ministries. When COVID pandemic hit, my father fell seriously ill. He spent months in the hospital. I prayed day and night, believing that he will recover. Our relationship was not easy. We had difficult times because I didn't like the way that he was mistreating my mom. And took time for me to understand that it was not my fault, that it was their relationship. And I had to rebuild that relationship with my dad. So I asked God for guidance, and He helped me to talk to Him again. I started talking to Him more often. I started calling Him, sending Him messages, and I started loving Him again. But then, when he got sick and he was in the hospital, God called him home, and losing him was devastating. And unfortunately, I read a comment. This person said, "Where are all the prayers now? God isn't listening." At that time, doubt overwhelmed me. I stopped going to church and felt abandoned. But God didn't abandon me. My sister in Colombia, she shared something probably 10 months after my dad passed away. The moment when my dad was taken to the ICU, he surrendered to God. My sister said that at that moment, my dad was saying, God, I love you. I accept you in my life. It helped me to realize that God was listening. That one moment became my light in the darkness. It was actually pulling me back towards faith. So I decided to return to church, and God sent me a beautiful invitation to help in the women's ministry. And during that women's retreat, God reignited my spirit. We had this beautiful and wonderful lady talking to us and saying how important it was to continue fighting and continue going back to God no matter what happened. Soon after, a job in the youth ministry became available. After I applied, within a week, the position was actually mine. And it was everything that I had prayed for. Having a position to work in a place where I was doing what I like, my passion, the club ministries, having a better salary, and having one day off to be able to enjoy with my family. So yes, God was listening. So now that I am out of the domestic violence situation and I am recognizing the red flags and everything that happened in my life, we can use it to help other women to recognize those red flags that I was not able to recognize at the beginning. There's a program called End It Now that helps not only women but people at church to recognize when they are in domestic violence, when there's abuse, not only at home but at church and any other place. God is never going to let us alone. He's always going to be with us. The only thing that we need to do is to pray to God and to ask Him for what we need at that specific moment. God is listening all the time.